Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm talking about Wonder Woman, the annual from 1996, Legends of the Dead Earth, right? So this is the first full collaboration between John Byrne and Dave Cockrum, also with Norm Brayfogle, who's doing the inks. Now, ultimately at this time, Dave Cockrum wasn't working a lot, and Byrne was thinking of this thing for the Dead Earth annuals. So he had the idea that to do a space story, but have Dave Cockrum do the art. There was some pushback, but ultimately Byrne they allowed Dave Cockrum to draw it. The only thing was, Byrne had said he's going to play to his strengths. And when I heard that, I was like, oh no! Every time someone says that from Image, nothing comes of it, and it's either that or three main characters a page, colorful costumes, too many characters, so not to really get to see his kind of storytelling. And to my surprise, Byrne said after that it would be babes, monsters, and sci-fi stuff. And I was like, he actually knows Dave Cockrum's strengths, right? So here we have the lead character in it, which is Eliza, and then I think this is a female monster here. That's going to lead to something later, but we have the remnants of Wonder Woman's costume, right? So now, what else did I say? So there was, running through all of the annuals, they had this Legends of the Dead Earth and different stories that were going on there. And then sort of had this was called a womb, this spaceship, and this is going to what Dave Cockrum used to do on the X-Men. Starting out with a huge, massive, newfangled spaceship, sort of something that could house a large group of people. But then at the same time, when you look in, it looks kind of run down, right? And as you go in there's a lot of weird creatures in there, but then there's something else looming as you go along, right? Then we're introduced to this babe here. And this is, I'm pronouncing it, Eliza. That's with a L-E-Y, a large X-A, to give you sort of a DC, like a Kal-El type thing, right? And some of the other male characters that are sort of in her tribe have the same thing. So as we go forward, she's on the run. She's kind of hiding out, going through all of the little areas in the spaceship, and it's got the cool classic sort of storytelling where we would get just sort of the captions. And she's greeted with this monster. The monsters are after her, or seemingly after her. And then they chase after her, and then the tongue goes, and then she escapes, right? So I'm not going to lead, because I already know how the story ends. But then we get another cool shot of this character, sort of showing, which ultimately I look at this and I say, possibly I think Dave should have been doing some of the New Mutants too, because he does a lot of great young characters. And if you see Soul Searchers, that was another book that he did around this time in the 90s. That's really great for the storytelling and the interaction between the guys and girls. There's also a thing he did for from Broadway comics. He did a couple of villains for that, but there's a female character that's like Rogue, and this gets into the history of her tribe and her people and their struggles and that sort of thing. And of course some ads, and she's going about. Then ultimately we also we see this, she doesn't even understand the spacesuits. And we see the person that could possibly have been her husband, but they can't find her. They don't know where she is. These guys get into a fight. And we get to see a little more of their history and this war they're having with these Bat Rat characters that are that. So something that, of course, is their natural adversaries. And it's just some cool, very cool artwork, right? So, and then they of course succeeded in this battle, and we go into history, talking the past of the great heroes, and of course, as legends go on, the looks have changed. Some of the myths of what they were have changed into a Batman being an actual bat. And then talking about it, how women at this point were equals in this, which is a little bit different from the other race that they're seeing, right? And they talk about how they got to actually leave space, right? And how things go wrong. And then, of course, they're just struggling to survive, right? And then some more history between them and the Rat Bats, right? Talked about. So as you go along, she's find herself in the center. She's gonna find something to save the day. But at the same time, she sees a female rat bat. And the rat bat, of course, is using the technology. And this is worth the price of admission, right here. Dave Cockrum doing Byrne's design of Wonder Woman, or redesign. And I think he did a cover, but it was very, very much covered up by the DC people. This is ultimately, it would have been fun to see Dave sort of continue the book if Byrne was going to stay on it and see where that goes. He does a nice, powerful, and gorgeous looking Wonder Woman. Leads her to the past, with Wonder Woman's exploits, some of Wonder Woman's greatest battles. But then the creature leaves. So she says, I must do it. She knew what she must do. She connects to herself becoming Wonder Woman and saving the day and doing stuff like that. But as she goes along, something happens. She learns about the Rat Bat people, and they're not what she thought they were. The only problem is that they're just two sort of rival tribes fighting against each other, and that the females in this Rat Bat culture are equals to the males. So now she's in a struggle, right? So then at the same time, the other males have been connected because that's with her people, right? So they decide it comes from the Rat Bats, so they go on attack. And now we get to see the Rat Bats, and they're not really the aggressors here, as the story's been kind of showing us to be. And here, I should bring this down if I can, to see one of the rare landscape shots from Dave Cockrum, right? It's sad to say that we've lost both Dave Cockrum and Norm Brayfogle. You know, they're great artists. Norm Brayfogle also did Batman, great runs on Batman. He did Prime, and I think he did Metaphysic for Malibu, or it was Bravura. Right, so there's this great war between the Unremembered and the Rat Bats, and it's vicious and terrible. And then they've gotten rid of most of the warriors. They've cornered these ones that aren't ready to fight. But who comes unexpectedly? The Wonder Woman of this time, or seemingly so. Someone who adopts that code to fight against the Unremembered, and ultimately fights back. Even though they're wearing things of superheroes of old, she fights them and she holds them back, and then the Rat Bats take the lead, right? And then as they're ready to kill the Unremembered, Wonder Woman, or the Rat Bat Wonder Woman, says, no, you can't kill these people. We just want to stop this war. That's what she was doing, not trying to destroy them. But was it? I guess it'd be Velzen. He takes the spear and he's ready to gut this Wonder Woman. But Liza, she comes in and she stops her own person. And then she's like, they're much like us. We are brothers and they are our sisters. And what a twist, where we thought the monster was Wonder Woman, this becomes the first true Wonder Woman. The person to make peace and between the two warring races. Right? So, there we go. Ultimately, though Byrne asked Dave Cockrum to do this, and he was a fan of Dave Cockrum before he got into comic books. He was a fan of, he would check out the, what's that thing? Legion of Superheroes. He would also, he would apologize to the fans for taking over the X-Men because he knew it would be jarring. And he was very worried that the fans would be very upset that he was taking over the X-Men from him. But some animosity came in between him and Dave Cockrum. Even though Byrne says he would see Cockrum in the Marvel offices and they talk and chat and bug out. But as he left, there was sentiment that, Byrne was this so-and-so and this and that. And it possibly might have came from Chris Claremont. I don't know. It could have come from Patty Cockrum. But there was something going on, feeling that. But Byrne, he gave up the X-Men. Dave Cockrum took it over, and he's always been a fan. Ultimately, this came to a head later when there was a tribute book after Dave Cockrum had passed that they ultimately said since Byrne had been so mean to Cockrum, he couldn't do it. And they tried to say, because he asked for his original artwork back, or he just sent a scan in, and they were going to sell the stuff to make money, which I don't know if they told Byrne that. But they kept him out of the book, and Patty Cockrum went on a couple of blogs complaining about Byrne. And they unearthed a comment of talking about the very loose pencil drawing that it would be hard to ink, that was an insult to Dave Cockrum. But as you can see, put your money where your mouth is. Byrne wanted to work with him, whereas other people didn't. Image guys, you have Jim Lee, you had Rob Liefeld, all talk about doing the Futurians. Never came to pass. This came to pass. This is here. This is done. So ultimately, you can say what you want, but you could still work with the guy and have him do miniseries. He was still a great artist. You look at Soul Searchers, you look at this, he still had the chops. And that's about it. I think Byrne did another annual after this, which was with him and Tom Palmer, where he did layouts. Be a little different than what he did on the Hidden Years, but it was it just shows you. I'm gonna go back to it. You know what? I'm here. It's not that long. That's a great page. I'm going back to this. This is a great page. All right, Spinner Rack out.